Well, I kind of went into this author, I feel out there and promote the book. And I'll talk a little bit about the writing process. So I kind of joke around now with people and say, writing it was really the easy part, and not that the marketing part isn't fun, it's just that, talk about perseverance, it takes a really long time to hit a stride, to hit any kind of, major success. I've had a lot of success with the people that have read the book so far, and I've gotten a lot of wonderful feedback, and I have a 5-star rating on Amazon, so the book has been well received, but it's just challenging as a self-published author to sort of overcome that. I don't want to call it stigma. I think it's going away. I actually know a lot of authors that were traditionally published that have now chosen the self-publishing route. So I think that's going away. But when you're unknown and you're out there and no one's heard of you and this is your first book, you really need to kind of get over that. And so I joined Facebook, among other things, and Twitter and all the social networking. Did a lot of networking locally in South Florida. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, one day I got this phone call from this very nice gentleman named Don Smith. And he said, Daria, he said, I know you through Chad Everson, we're friends on Facebook, and I read about your book, and I really want to do an interview for you for his new magazine called TemerityMagazine.com. And I said, great, I was so excited, it was my very first interview. And Don and I have been friends ever since, and it's been really wonderful to have another writer who understands how it can be, and I think everyone in this room does as well. I can tell you that from the time I was a little kid, and Loretta, who's a dear family friend who drove up with me today from Delaware County, Pennsylvania, I'm sure she could probably attest to this, but from the time I was very young, if people asked me what I wanted to do, I'd say, I'm going to be a novelist. I just always wanted to write. And when you're a little kid, of course, you don't realize, you think you just grow up and you do that, and you don't realize how hard it's going to be. And so I think for a lot of years, I did a lot of other things. Certainly I employed my abilities into every job that I had. I worked at corporate communications for National Bank. I was a technical writer for Franklin Templeton. I've done copywriting. So I've used my writing skills in my work, but to really finally just say, I'm going to sit down and do this, and really sort of finally do what I believe I was put on this earth to do was, the timing was right. And it's kind of an interesting story, the way this came about. But I will say that I had the journals and the books that I wrote to prove that I was serious about this when I was 8 years old. Family members would buy me for gifts, journals. And so I actually have like 2 completed stories in here. The only difference being back then I was also into illustration, so they're fully illustrated and they're full stories. But somewhere along the line, reality set in, and I think this happens to a lot of us, and we just say, no, it's not practical, and I'll never be able to do it, and so we sort of put that off. And I think in my case, because this book is loosely based on real events, I actually had to live through a lot of the events before I could actually sit down and write the book. But interestingly, what had happened was, I had the title Water Signs in my head since 1994, and that has to do with the fact the character that's based on Ken is a real person and someone that I did have a relationship with, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But when I realized things weren't going to work out the way I had planned with him, to use an old cliche, writing is therapy. Well, this was therapy for me, and I started just jotting down notes back in 1994. Never really did anything with it, but I always had that title, Water Signs, in my head. And one of the reasons at that time was because he and I are both Pisces, and so it sort of tied in with that. And then certainly the fact that he was from South Jersey and we were now living in South Florida tied in with the coastal locations of the story. And the real person, the real Ken, also being a Navy vet, just like Ken is in the story. That sort of all tied in. But what I didn't realize back then was that eventually I was going to go through panic and anxiety disorder, which is a disorder of the emotions, and water being a symbol of the emotions also tied in nicely with that title. And also of spiritual renewal, because this story takes place over 16 years, and there's definitely a thread of reconciliation, renewal of relationships, spiritual renewal. It certainly celebrates faith in God, and that giving an individual strength to sort of overcome any obstacles or challenges they may face in life, and certainly family relationships are explored. So it's not just reconciliation between these 2 characters over a 16-year period, it's also reconciliation between father and son, as is the case with Ken, who really has a different vision for his life than his father has for him. And so when he enlists in the Navy, his dad is actually angry. Instead of being proud of him and saying, how dare you want something more than this path that I've created for you, we're working in South Jersey in a working class position. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but Ken has had a lot of ambition, and he knew that if he wanted to make anything of himself, that this was the route he had to go. So throughout the course of the book, there's tension between him and that, and I show how that's eventually resolved. Same thing with Maddie and her mom, who loves her dearly, but there's certainly an element of overprotectiveness. And so there's certainly a maturation of relationships and a renewal. So that's where I got the subtitle, The Story of Love and Renewal. And it certainly explores all of those relationships, goes into relationships with siblings. And as the story progresses, when these two finally meet up again, it's almost as if they've had to go their separate ways in order to grow and mature and really actually be ready now to have this relationship that didn't work out the first time around. So it's first love and second chances. Interestingly, anyone who's from or who's familiar with the South Jersey Shore will love the settings, because part one mostly takes place at the Jersey Shore, where I spent a lot of my summer vacations. My family at different times had homes in Ocean City, so we would go down there a lot, and some of the action takes place in Atlantic City. My main character, Ken, is from Ventnor, so a lot of New Jersey is represented in my book. And also the Philly suburbs. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with that, but I grew up in Media, which is outside of Philadelphia, and I'm a graduate of Villanova University, so there's a lot of local references there. And then part two sort of takes us to South Florida, which is where I've lived for the past 15 years. And a lot of it has to do with this relationship and meeting this person. So there's also an element of the book of, meeting somebody unexpectedly, because I do meet, when Maddie goes to the shore this one weekend with her friend, she never expects that she's going to meet anybody. She's just coming off of a bad relationship. She's 25 years old, and she's kind of she's with another girlfriend who, she's also based on a real life person. The character's name is Carmen in the book, who's very outgoing and very much someone who attracts a lot of attention. So, as was the case in real life, whenever I went out with her, inevitably guys would come over and talk to us because they were initially attracted to my friend. So that was sort of the case this particular night, and I don't want to give away all the details, but just the idea of meeting someone sort of unexpectedly, and even though they're only in your life for a short time, the impact that they can have. And so each of these characters is a catalyst for the other. When we meet Ken, he's not sure what he wants to do with his life. He knows he doesn't want to work for the electric company the rest of his life. He knows that there are bigger things ahead of him. He's out of the Navy. He's still trying to figure it all out, but he's a hard worker. He's very enthusiastic about life, enthusiastic about what lies ahead, and he's willing to work for it. And he sort of he's one of my characters that represents the American dream. And he's just grateful to have the opportunity to sort of rise above his station in life, even though he's got some disapproval going on with the family. And so when they meet, Maddie's a little insecure because she's coming off of this relationship, and it's sort of like they're the right people for each other at the wrong time. But he's inspired by her family, and Maddie's father is a doctor, as is my own dad, who was born to immigrant parents and really worked his way hard through high school and college and medical school and actually went on to some success. So that character represents the American dream as well. And so Maddie's family sort of has an impact on Ken, and it's a catalyst for him to sort of maybe uproot his life and move to a location where he can actually achieve his goals. And he actually Maddie doesn't realize it at the time, but he sort of forces her to reevaluate where she is in her life. And so even though it doesn't work out for them the first time around, she realizes that she's been able to sort of start anew, get another renewal, and really kind of forge her own way in the world as a result of meeting him that night in the club. And so the book really does go into, it's much more than just a romance novel about. And I